we are moving on to this story about Cory Booker. We have some things to expose about Cory Booker right now. This is actually a pretty short story, but I think you guys need to hear about it. Someone sent this to me. You know, Cory Booker, he's one of those politicians that, again, I feel that it's false representation. He's one of the ones that they're propped up, right? Because he follows the rules. He does what the establishment wants him to do. He's a part of the status quo. So he's propped up to make African Americans think that there is somebody out there who represents us. And if he did it, we can do it too. And he's going to fight for us. So I've been very critical about Cory Booker in reference to the lies that he tells, the type of showmanship that he has. He's just very fake. And I can say this, having seen him in person. And I've seen one of his speeches in person. He's very fake. Give you Obama-esque vibes, right? Did you know that Cory Booker actually was at an AIPAC meeting where he was explaining to AIPAC how to recruit African Americans for the pro-Israel cause? I kid you not. Shout out to the person, I can't remember your name, but you sent this to me via email. Shout out to the person who sent this to me, because this is something I think you need to see. And I don't think many people have seen this. So make sure you share this on social media. Now, this was from a couple of years ago, but it's still apparently very relevant today. This is Cory Booker meeting with AIPAC, giving them advice on how to recruit other African Americans like him. Listen to this.
A couple more questions. One more question, Barry. Barry says, Barry has spoken. This is a lot of pressure. The last question.
You spoke a lot about hope, and obviously you are someone who is very pro-Israel. We also heard beautiful remarks about some of the students on traditionally black colleges, leadership, and what they've done. But could you give us your own evaluation of the African American leadership in the United States, and what is their feeling about Israel? And because oftentimes I think locally outside of New York, we find that there is becoming greater identification, not with the history of Israel and what Israel's become, but with the sufferings of the Palestinians without any really understanding of the history with Israel. So comment on.
Let me pause there for a second. I'm actually going to try to make this, Cory, if you can make that a little bit louder, and I'll tell them what he's basically saying. So what he is asking Cory Booker is basically this. He is saying, could you tell us how to get, more support? Again, this is AIPAC. I don't want you to think this is just, these are Jewish people hanging out saying, how can we get support from the black community? This is AIPAC, okay? They are lobbyists. They lobby in Congress, right? So they have people like Richie Torres in their back pocket, people like Hakeem Jeffries. This is very, very problematic. The fact that you have, okay, thank you, Eric. The fact that you have them, Cory Booker here, trying to help them out. So what they're asking is, how can we get African Americans to do this? Because we're seeing, and this was years ago, we're seeing that they seem to be sympathetic to the Palestinian cause. You see what's happening? You see who will sell us out? You see who will sell black people out? A black person. One of the greatest tools of white supremacy is to get an African American to turn on their own people and do it for you. That's Cory Booker. Here we go.
African American leadership.
Well, look, blacks are always going to be, as Jews are, I think, always going to be some of the first to sign up to address the suffering of others. And we shouldn't be afraid of that within the black community, the Jewish community, whatever community. But when it comes to justice for Israel and understanding any suffering within context, we need to be more vigilant than we're being right now. And I look, the black community in many ways, I argue, I just was a speaker for the ADL's annual dinner, and we always argue, every time I meet Abe Foxman, I always ask him about his studies of black anti-Semitism and is it higher than American anti-Semitism as a whole? We have interesting discussions, but if you live in the American world, there are streams within America, and many of them are streams within the mainstream that are racist and that are have anti-Semitism in them.
So you guys see, listen to how Cory Booker, listen to how he's talking about his own people. You hear this? You see this shit? It's like, how many people have seen this? How many of you in the chat, if you've seen this before, say yes in the chat. If you haven't seen it, say no. You see how this works? This is a hot mess.
We have to always be on guard to vigilantly fight against those streams. Is there streams of anti-Semitism in African American life? Yes. Is there streams of racism or bigotry in Jewish life? Yes. So my point is not, that's a given. The more important question to me is, what are we who are validly against that? What are we going to do? And so within the Black community, and I say this all the time, and you ask specifically about Black leadership. First of all, this excites me like never before, because Obama is a raindrop compared to the storm that's coming of young Black leaders around this country.
Now we get into Black leadership, and he brings up Obama. I want to point something out for you. I can't speak for other groups in this country, but oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes, Black leadership is chosen. Barack Obama, chosen. Jim Clyburn, chosen. These people are selected early on, man. Early on. Every now and then there are a few that actually can squeak by and they get in, right? Like they weren't selected, they beat the odds and they make it. They get into these political positions. Sometimes they don't last long because they don't go along with the status quo, right? Like someone like a Cynthia McKinney, you see they kicked her out. This is how it works. But most of the time, oftentimes, Black leadership in these particular positions, like Cory Booker, are selected and chosen well in advance. And then what happens is that you have not just obviously the political parties that will tell you that these are your leaders, these are your heroes, and these are the people that you should listen to. These are the people that you should admire, and these are the people that you should want to be like. And this goes back to something Dr. Shiva said when he came onto my show. He said the reason why we don't have leaders like Malcolm X, we don't have leaders like Fred Hampton, we don't have leaders like MLK, other than the fact that they were killed by these government agencies. The reasons why we don't have them anymore is because after our revolutionary leaders died, mainstream media and those government agencies and politicians and the political parties, they decided that they were going to tell us who our leaders are and who they should be. So we have people out there that we are told is representing us and we're told that we should admire. But these people, you have to understand, they were chosen. And they're chosen to give you the impression that you have someone fighting for your cause when you don't. Cory Booker is one of those people. Jim Clyburn, one of those people. Barack Obama, one of those people. Kamala Harris, one of those people. Those people didn't just get there because they worked hard and they went to a good school. There are a lot of people that work hard and went to a good school. They don't get those spots. They don't get those opportunities. I wonder why. Let's continue.
Are phenomenally qualified, phenomenally experienced. You're going to see more Black governors, you're going to see more Black senators, you're going to see more African-American CEOs. This next generation is coming up behind my parents' generation. It's incredibly qualified, incredibly competent in making moves. So my only hope is with that, and so the people like to think that one Black person speaks for all Black America, which is so offensive to me in many ways. So I'm sorry, Jesse Jackson doesn't speak for me. Al Sharpton doesn't speak for me. It's just there's as much diversity within the Black community, dear God, as there's diversity within the Jewish community.
So now this is what he does. Like, well, one Black person doesn't speak for the entire group, but here is Cory Booker doing just that. This is why they asked him, doing just that, speaking for everybody. Like, it's just, they look at Cory Booker, they're like, we got Cory Booker, we got him on our side. We had no problem lobbying someone like him How do we get the rest of them? Keep in mind, we are only 13% of the population. 13%. That's it. We're not like this huge group in the United States.
2 Jews in the town, you have 3 synagogues, okay? So that's the reality that there is. So the only thing I can say is that this next group of African Americans are very visionary, very much full of hope, very value-based, as I know them, Harold Ford's, Archer Davis's, and many other people that AIPAC knows. And the only thing I think that, look, I think that AIPAC, it's critical that you continue to find, not them when they're Congress people, you find those black leaders when they're 22-year-olds at Oxford, when they're 24-year-olds as a city council president, and you go to them then and say, come.
Did you hear what he just said? He just told them when to find them. You see what I'm saying? This is like, he said, you find those black leaders when they're in college, go to them, start targeting them when they're in college. Start targeting them when they're in positions of like city council. Do you see what he's doing? Giving them advice. This is Cory Booker selling out the black community, telling lobbyists to target these kids in college, target them when they're city councilors.
To Israel, let us start showing you what this is about. That's what a key mission of AIPAC that we must continue, which is finding future leaders, young leaders in America. I'm at the Aspen Institute. They've done a great job. They have this young leaders group. That whole group should go to Israel. These are the kind of things that need to be done.
You hear this? See, look, this is what's happening. Listen to this part where he said that whole group should go. Watch this.
And you go to them then and say, come to Israel. Let us start showing you what this is about. That's what a key mission of AIPAC that we must continue, which is finding future leaders, young leaders in America. I'm at the Aspen Institute. They've done a great job. They have this young leaders group. That whole group should go to Israel. These are the kind of things that need to be done ultimately for us to combat that. But please, I appeal to Jews all the time. Please do not think that there are, just because such and such a black leader gets up there, whether it be Reverend Wright or whomever, and says something stupid, like many leaders, period, do, and spread that around for the entire black community. As much as Jews would never want to be held responsible for everything Shmuel would have. Thank you.
So what Cory Booker did is he told them, go to them early and get them to come to Israel. Don't get them to go to Gaza. Don't get them to go to the West Bank. Cory Booker telling them how to propagandize you early on. Now, in order to understand why he's even in that room in the first place, you have to understand who Cory Booker is and where he came from. Because for a long time, Cory Booker would talk about the fact of, oh, my parents experienced housing discrimination. We had to deal with this in New Jersey, and they weren't sold a house until their white friend went to the realtor, and then they sold the house to him, and yada, yada. He loves to tell that story. But Cory Booker also likes to sell out his own people. He has no problem throwing the black community on the bus that he claims to care so much about. So you got to understand where he came from so that you can understand who they target and why. So who is Cory Booker? Listen to this.
Hello, how are you?
Cory Booker, the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, and now the odds-on favorite to be the state's next senator, is one of the best-known mayors in America.
If I am your United States Senator, the direction I will be most concerned with will not be right or left. It will be with going forward.
But if you are not one of his 1.4 million followers on Twitter, or watch him address the Democratic National Convention, who is Cory Booker? The 44-year-old played football at Stanford University and earned his law degree at Yale.
It is so.
Pause there. So Cory Booker went to Stanford. Yes, he was on the football team. And then he also went to Yale for law school. These are the people that they choose. These are the people that they seek out. Let me find a black man, a black woman that's highly educated that went to these elite academic institutions, and let me select them and tell the black community, this is your representation. This is who you should look up to. He went further. Listen to this. This is interesting. This is another thing that they'll do.
So good to be back here.
He first gained national attention by taking on Newark's entrenched mayor, Sharp James, and losing. Booker also lived in one of Newark's most notorious housing projects to draw attention to the plight of its residents.
This is another thing that they'll do. So again, he knows he doesn't have to live there, right? Right. Of course, he was highly educated. He had plenty of money to live elsewhere. He didn't have to live in the projects. But what is going to work for a campaign if you're trying to win over that group of the population? So this is another example, and I do not agree with this. I do not agree with candidates moving to an area that they are trying to win. Either you live there, you're already there, or nothing. You run in the area where you reside. You don't move to that area and then say, okay, I'm going to run for mayor. So he goes and he moves into a housing project. And I've seen a documentary about Cory Booker as well. He moves into like this housing project. This is all an act to convince the people in the community, hey, look at me, I'm one of you. But he's not. That's the thing. He's not. He didn't grow up in poverty. He grew up in the suburbs. He went to a great school. And I'm talking about before college. He went to a great school. That's who you are. It is what it is. You don't get to come to the projects and try to play dress up. I'm one of you now, guys. See, look, I can be on your level too. That's another trick that they do. They'll get someone who has the credentials from those institutions, and then they'll say, okay, now we need you to appeal to the Black voters. So the majority of Black voters are obviously not in the same position that Cory Booker is in. So that means that he has to go out into the community and talk to the people that are not on the same level as him. This motherfucker moved in. This is dress up. Dress up.
In 2006, he took on James as deputy and won. Last year, Booker considered challenging New Jersey's popular Republican governor, Chris Christie, but he decided against it.
Thank you, everybody.
Booker is now set to face lesser-known Steve Lonigan, the former state director of the anti-tax group Americans for Prosperity.
Good morning.
In the race ahead, expect criticism that Booker has been too often absent from his city, courting celebrities and moguls, and that taxes, crime, and unemployment have risen during his tenure.
It's time for us to send a message.
Expect Booker to respond that his networking has brought in hundreds of millions of dollars in donations to Newark, including a $100 million donation to city schools by Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg. Democrats outnumber Republicans in the Garden State by 700,000 registered voters, but independents outnumber both. The special election will take place on October 16th.
Cory Booker went on to win U.S. senator. So he became senator in D.C., right? But these are the people that are chosen for us. These are not the people that we think we're choosing them, but we're not. They've already been chosen. They've already been selected, and they're promoted in front of us over and over again. So we think, yeah, I have a decision between this guy and that guy, not realizing there could be someone else way better out there who actually has the experience instead of this poser who moved into the hood. And I'm not trying to hate on you where you come from. Like, if you grew up privileged, you grew up privileged. This is what it is. Run where you live, damn it. You don't move to the ghetto and then say, okay, I'm going to run. No, you don't do that. But he's out there selling out for AIPAC, telling them how to get more Black people, just like they got him. And then you see this. Netanyahu met with AIPAC leadership in Jerusalem today. You see this? How is this legal? So here's AIPAC again. Same way they were able to meet with Cory Booker. Now they're meeting with Netanyahu. Meeting with foreign entities, right? Thought you weren't supposed to do that. We have to be careful when people tell us who our heroes are. We have to be careful.